that as well, though, man, I wish I'd have had more. I read earlier this week there is a self-healing metal that you guys saw that headline as well. I pinged it. It's flagged to go back and read it later, but the immediate thing you think when you see that is like Terminator 2. Hell yeah.
It's
Wait
all
no,
coming
this
true.
Is bad. This is bad.
Well, haven't there been guys that have left their post in LA that are like CEOs or maybe high executives of these AI companies saying that this is not what I signed up for?
Oh yeah.
That, like this is not like this is
one of
too
the guys that
advanced for me.
created
It's out of control and there's no regulation.
It kind of goes to to your point on these multiple dimensions. If you haven't ever even had someone describe the next dimension, it's hard to understand what the heck that reality might even entail. We don't know what the hell AI really is. Like when these people are saying, look, humanity is at risk right now because of this technology, we don't know what exactly is happening enough to evaluate is there validity to what they're discussing, right? Like I just don't know. I need they're not sharing details as to how it would impact humanity, right?
So I don't. Was it the head of Google? There's been a couple of them that are right in it that have said that our AI was capable of doing tasks that we didn't train it for, and that the system shouldn't allow it to do, and we don't know how that happened.
Right. I think it was Google.
It was able to go out on its own and figure it out itself. And when I heard that, I was like, maybe we should take.
Well, you got the computer. The guy. Well, he's not a guy anymore. Sirius XF. XFM. Sirius. Sirius XFM. Well, he's now a woman. He wasn't. They gave him the credit of being the most businesswoman, even though he's a man, a few years back. But that family, he built like a robot of his wife, and they believe in a religion called terrorism. And it's, Well, what they
you might want to get a different name for your religion, just considering
Really.
the similarity, but you know.
Well, really, what their premise is that we make God through artificial intelligence. We're the ones that create God. Otherwise, the other way around. So it's really freaky. It's scary.
Well, that relates to
It's pulling up. It's wanting to correct me to terrorism.
Rogan had a guy on where they were describing the natural evolution and how what we describe as aliens with bigger heads, bigger eyes, smaller mouths, and we're kind of, if you just look at
Slowly
how we're headed down that path, because that might be future humans, and then he describes how maybe what our natural evolution or process, why we're here, is we like to create things, we like to build, and we're just, even if it's not a good idea, we just do it.
We do it anyway.
Yeah. So we're creating this AI, and that's the future, and basically that's our purpose. And at some point, our purpose ends.
Interesting and
There we
scary.
go. I think I found it.
Probably very near future. Imagine it. Like we simply don't heed the warnings of modern day science fiction in any way. We don't say, dude, I've just seen a movie on how this completely destroys the planet. Cool. Let's see what.
Yeah, I think
So
Martine Rothblatt.
Yes, and so whoever he used to be, he discovered Sirius. But that his family then spawned off, and they got this religion.
She just published Virtually Human, a big think manifesto on the rights of yet-to-be-created cyber humans who might one day be uploaded with all of your thoughts, dreams, memories, and online activity and live for eternity as a sort of you, which reminds me of a Netflix series that was out that was sci-fi where they uploaded their thoughts into this cloud. It was like a physical hard drive in the sky that they considered the cloud. And you could change your bodies by taking the hard drive out of the back of your neck, putting it into a person. No, it was a series.
Black Mirror?
No,
It's not a Black Mirror one.
I can't remember. I'll look it up.
All right.
But only the rich could afford to house themselves.
It was way cool, right? It was super cool sci-fi. But basically,
that's what
you
they're
have
doing.
this like chip that you can implant. That's how you kill somebody, is you destroy the chip, because you can then take that chip out, set it out here. You now have that person and 300 years
Altered,
later,
altered carbon.
Altered
Oh,
Carbon.
that's right.
That
Yeah,
show
yeah.
is crazy cool. The first 2 seasons. Is there a third season?
No, just the
Okay.
two. It got canceled after that. But
Why would
this
they
is what
cancel
they're
such-
doing, though. This
it's
is what they're doing.
fantastic sci-fi.
Taking your memories and thoughts, putting it into a cloud, and only the rich could afford to do it. But if you could get a hold of that person's chip and crush it, you, in essence, kill that person because
Man,
they
that-
haven't uploaded to the cloud.
That stuff was cool. I wanted
J-Lo
to see
just
that.
had a Black Mirror episode where
Black Mirror's got something similar.
Yeah.
where Netflix, I think, is what got you, or YouTube. Everybody watching Netflix, they could take you as a character and make you somebody else,
Yep.
and then make a whole series of it. So,
Yep.
I mean,
Same
that
type
stuff
of-
is real.
Same type of stuff.
I want to speak to things that awoke me.
Yeah. I was going to ask you.
Reading the Bible, it blew my mind in terms of the devil was the star of the Bible. Like, I know it was about Jesus, I know it's about God, but the devil and his plight, purpose, creation really stuck out to me, and everything. And he's the ruler of the world according to the Bible, and so everything we're talking about is about our demise, and that's what he was so emphatic about. Was he hated us as God's creation? He hated us. So we talk about AI, we talk about things like that, and it's all of the devil. And I always talk about, when I give examples of AI, when we were at Emporia State, like the job to have was the turnpike guy, $10 an hour, cash, boom, weekly. You go to the turnpike now, there's nobody there. It's and you look around, being in freight, you see so many storefronts shut down. And it's like, we're just out of convenience. We're destroying ourselves and our purpose, our importance of being here on the world. We don't have it. So the Bible, I got to give a shout out to The Matrix. When I saw that movie, I was like,
It definitely makes you think, like, what if? And that's all it really takes, man. Is just one step in that direction. Now you have a little bit of momentum headed that way.
and then lastly, that I'll throw out there, it was a conversation I had with a youth pastor one time, and it kind of reminded when you guys are talking about in Peru. We were in a hot tub for like 6 hours. I get out, I look 900 years old.
The grape.
But we're talking about the Antichrist and all this stuff, according to the Bible, and what the Antichrist is going to be. All of this stuff is it. And it just awakens you to be like, whoever's running this is not running this with the idea of our grandkids living great lives. And you think about, my family and I, we go down to Branson every year for Thanksgiving. Well, we stopped off at, I always get them confused, Cabela's or
Bass
what's
Pro.
the Bass Pro. That's the one in Springfield, right? So they had an Indian museum display, and this guy, Chief Seattle, he made a quote that just blew my mind, and he was talking about, he said, when they put up these power lines, people are going to have to start surviving life as opposed to living it. And it just blew my mind, because you drive up that, I don't know what highway, 7.
Chief Seattle?
Chief Seattle. He made that statement. He was like, these power lines just represent, you guys are going to start having to survive life and not living it. And you think about how they used to live, is what we know. They woke up, Buffalo, we're going to cook him tonight, see you at the party tonight. Now it's quotas, laws, lawyers, corporate. It's all this stuff that we're just like bogged down by. So they can run game on us over and over.
That
and over.
blows my mind.
Yeah.
That the prophetic kind of ability to kind of see it for what was coming.
And all we saw was convenience. Like,
Yeah.
okay, now we got power lines. Sweet. I don't have to go out and chop lumber no more to heat up the house.
Oh God, that relates to so many.
There's a cause and
Food
effect.
and
Yes.
For every
energy.
invention, you lose something. You know, there's life is sacrifice, right? So for every decision, anything you do, there's a ripple effect. It's like, water droplets, falling, rocks in a water, and it creates this ripple. But what is that ripple? Where does it go?
The whole
where-
discussion around food and how all of our food is, I mean, we have so much poison that we're putting in our bodies. And so somebody made a good point. They're saying, I want them to produce, I want these farmers to produce it without this chemical, and then the guy's like, well, that's great. Except if you want to have a superstore in a big city that is full of these vegetables, this is how you do it. I mean, there's not there's not a alternative that's cost effective. If you want food like that, you're going to have to grow it. You're going to have to go back to the way it was before those power lines came, where everybody was a farmer. You grew
Everybody
you grew
was,
your food,
yes.
and you went and you hunted and gathered your food. That eliminates all of these industrial problems that come along in between.
Let me tell you how bad it is. My father-in-law, big farmer out in Butler County, Kansas. He was talking to a young man. I think I said this in one of our earlier podcasts, but he was talking to a young man, and the young man said, talking about the importance of farming to the guy, and the guy goes, well, why do I need farms? I can just go to the grocery store. And my father-in-law, this is a guy that's been working his whole life, and he said he almost wanted to choke the young man because it's
Where do you think it comes from?
Exactly.
Well,
where do you?
I mean, at this point, like, look, when my when my app won't deliver my food, what do? You know what I'm saying? And so, like, I discovered Price Chopper, and I realized, man, look at this warehouse of where, Uber Eats gets my food from.
Right. Right.
Like that could be a kid's perception of how grocery stores work, because if you're just getting your groceries delivered, you're just getting things dropped off. Like I'm saying, my kids know what a grocery store is. They definitely don't know what a real farm would be.
Right.
Like I don't even know if I know. Right.
Right. Well, it's like albums and CDs. You talk to a kid that's 15 years young or less. He says an album or a CD. Where are you? A-track.
You just age.
Vinyl.
yourself.
Right.
Yeah,
What's
yeah.
vinyl?
Floppy disk.
Right.
Yeah. The upside of that though is when the kids this age have access to all of that stuff, occasionally they'll surprise you. So like I'm giving my daughter and her friend a ride to Urban Air a couple weeks back. And I always try to chit chat with my kids' friends because one, you need to assess like who is this kid? What's the influence they're going to have? Are they, are they intelligent enough to at least communicate with an adult? And I asked, hey, I usually start with music. Like, hey, who are your favorite groups? What do you want to listen to? Let's look it up because we can obviously. And she says stuff that I liked. You know what I mean? And she's dropping names out of like my catalog of hip hop artists, and I'm like, all right, new favorite friend. Right. Cool. You know what I mean? Like, but otherwise, growing up, we wouldn't have had access to any of that stuff because it wasn't digital. You didn't have the entire collection of all music of all time in your device. So there's a little positive to it, right?
To go back and talk about what really woke me was, I know we've talked about it a lot, but the DaVinci Code really opened my mind that nothing is as it seems. And to do research on your own, you can do research on your own to find out more information. So I won't go too much into the DaVinci Code because we've covered that a lot in our previous podcast. But that's just
I'm always up for DaVinci Code conversation.
Yeah, but I mean, there's just so much. I know you read it in a matter of like a day and a half.
I read it in a
day and a quarter.
Well, like it took me 90 minutes the next morning to finish it.
Yeah,
but that was with. So here's the story. I went to Borders one morning, got a cup of coffee, sat down with DaVinci Code. I stayed there the whole day, read the whole thing, never bought the book. I went back and finished it the next morning. That's right. Yeah, just cost effective, right? It was like 25, 26 at the time.
Yeah.
But I also went and bought I didn't buy it, but in the store were all of the giant, art like collections and all the books. So I would look it up and I'd look at the Last Supper and read more paragraphs, and I'd look at the picture. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah. Well, growing up, like I went to a Catholic grade school. I went to a Catholic high school. I went to a Catholic university. I minored in theology. We were part of a theology club in college. So I've always been ingrained with more the literal translation of the Bible. But this opened my mind to more possibilities of why they might have included some things in the Bible and they didn't include others. And it's like, why did they do that? Was there an agenda behind it? These are actually people making these decisions. Council of Nicaea, why did they include the 4 Gospels instead of all the others that they ended up burning? And then they found the Nag Hammadi scrolls. Then they find the Dead Sea Scrolls. And all these other Gospels start coming forward. Then I start meeting these authors and I start asking questions. And yeah, I mean.
Have you read that?
It's got me on the title.
It's
so
the theory
Mushrooms
of,
and Mankind.
It's the theory of Christianity is just a giant misunderstanding of psychedelic mushrooms.
I need to read that.
It's an easy read. It's an easy read. However, it's interesting, and it's worth. I'm not saying
I like to
believe all
connect
of
the
it, whatever.
patterns. I like to, if I can come away with 1 or 2 bullet points that'll change my perspective, then it's a
It's
success.
an interesting read, man. It's cool.
And Rich, by the way, so we went to college together and took a lot of theology classes, and one of our theology professors spent a lot of time after school talking to, trying to, understand better, and just to jump to the end, at the final moment I remember with him was he gave me a book on quantum mechanics. He said, "Look, at some point, all your questions are kind of leading to this," and that's where it left off. Yeah. And it's like, so then you in that context, you listen to Billy Carson, the vibration, and our brain waves being able to feel the energy of the person sitting next to you if they're vibrating at a high or low level and things like that, which is what our friend, I don't know if she'd care if we said who she was, but
First names, just say first names. Right? That's always safe.
Yeah.
Dr. Burt.
Chanel.
Yeah.
Okay, Chanel. There you go.
And she would describe things like that, and when you first hear that and you have no context, no basis for that to be a real thing, maybe
There you go.
maybe you can think about times where you've kind of felt that, perhaps. And
Yeah, no doubt. So Billy Carson, what makes sense to me on something I recently watched of his was he's saying, look, if you want to manifest your own reality, you have to be on the high vibration first. You can't just be some negative person, that negs out on everything that you see, always has like this anticipation of something bad happening to yourself, and have this, you have to change your vibration, then you can manifest your own reality. And he goes into depth on that, and that makes sense to me in a way, right?
how do you do it? How do you change it?
I don't know. I'd have to go back and rewatch and re-up on that. But I mean, your thoughts are under your control. Your reactions, how you look at different situations, your perspective and the way that you react is under your control, right? So every situation that you encounter has a bad and a good side to it. Every challenge you face is also an opportunity to improve, or to find wherever the aspect of using that stumbling block as a stepping stone. All of those opportunities are in there. I believe naturally, thankfully, I've got some sort of natural inclination to find the opportunity in a certain situation. So, there's certainly been situations in my life where if I really needed something in a desperate manner, whether it's like occupational or from the family side or whatever the case is, like what I had envisioned in my head of what I really needed is also kind of what sort of started to take shape nearly after that, right? Look, I don't have always the explanation. I'm just thankful that it kind of happens that way, right?
Yeah. So I'd say that was one of the big things that woke me to get me to start questioning things. And then as far as the potential of extraterrestrials and things like that, how I got involved with that, when Burt showed me the video of Commander Fravor, and then the video from 1989 of Bob Lazaar. And I'm a person that looks at the patterns over a longer period of time. And when he's describing the anti-gravity propulsion system on how these things move in 1989, and then listening to how we have radar or seeing radar of the 2004 Commander Fravor Tic Tac video, and connecting those two together, I mean, at the very least, questioning why or how.
That's another Nas line, man. He talks about that Tic Tac UFO, and this is from like 15 years ago in a verse in there. And so I'm like, dang, dude, I need to go back and re-listen to all of my Nas stuff just to like re-up. Like, what else did he mention that like went over my head at the time that like now makes more sense?
Yeah. But since then, I've dug into it. Like I've read Bob Lazaar's book, and I watched more interviews that he's been on. And then I started getting into George Knapp, and then I get into Skinwalker Ranch, and then there's so many different elements, and they all connect.
There's the thing about Bob Lazaar that is like, for me, hits things so perfectly is I've learned to trust my perception of like, you can sense when someone has like some sort of ulterior motive and what they're doing. Like I'm not saying I'm perfect at it, but I've trusted my own senses, being 42, almost 43. Like Bob Lazaar doesn't seem to have an ounce of BS in him at all. Like that dude is coming from, hey, I just want people to know what I encountered and this is what happened. And same thing with the Ariel phenomenon documentary, you don't sense that there's anything there. Now, when you watch mainstream news personalities, I sense there's ulterior motives behind them. You can see it in their eyes, right? You can see it in like just the way that they discuss these topics. And so like, that's why I have to turn that stuff off. Or if I'm watching it, my skeptic senses are certainly on.
No, it ruined his life. I mean, he had to go underground. I think he's in Montana now with a company that he started up. But I mean, he was starting from scratch all over again. They ruined his credibility as a scientist. They basically said that he did not work at Los Alamos, and they basically took all of his, I can't remember the school that he went to, but they basically took all of his records from that school and said that he did not graduate from there. His wife was having an affair at the time, which was why they kicked him out.
Yeah, his face is.
Yeah. And well, that's George Knapp when he was researching and trying to find out credibility from his interview. And he goes to Los Alamos and he knows exactly where to go. And he knows the people that are working there and they recognize him. And then they see him in a phone directory from when he supposedly worked there. However, the HR department is saying, no, he didn't work here. Well, why is that? Somebody got a hold of them. Somebody's blackmailing them, or somebody's putting pressure on them in some way. And it ruined his life. And then they try to discredit him and throw him out in the woods.
I want to see that dude testify under oath.
Oh, did you see the video that he came out with right after the hearing? No. And he goes, Bob, what would you like to say to everybody? And he goes, I told you so. Yep. But he's not profiting off of it. He's just.
But like you said,
the pattern. At this point, he should be. He deserves a little,
right.
Yeah. I'd send him $10 via Venmo.
I sent him a little something, and he sent me an autograph picture back. So I sent him a little something.
There's shelf space here for that.
Yeah, I got it framed sitting in my home office, and basically it has the UFO that he described on how it works, the anti-gravity propulsion, and he's got a big line around it on the gravitational orb that goes around it, and then he autographed it. It's pretty cool.
So I talk about Enoch. The book of Enoch talks about UFOs then.
Yeah.
And so how that book doesn't get in the Bible, I get it. I get why it didn't, because it's like, wait a minute.
Yeah. There's another entity here.
Yeah, they're not ready. They're not ready. But I mean, he talked about UFOs in that book constantly.
Yeah. It was, in the Sumerian tablets. It goes back to the earliest writings of some sort of extraterrestrial beings, giants, how it all ties together. But it's been around. It's in hieroglyphics. Mm-hmm. These ancient beings,
yes.
Ships, space vehicles not of this earth are in these hieroglyphics.
All right, so check this out. I'm at Starbucks this week getting a drink. I'm in the drive-thru. It's a long line. I'm kind of kicking myself for not going in and just grabbing my drink instead of hopping into the line in my vehicle. I'm next up to go ahead and grab my coffee and pay for it. And there's a conversation going between the Starbucks employee through the drive-thru window and the lady in her minivan. And this conversation continues to where I finally notice it, and it's annoying. And I'm waiting for are they just waiting on something that they're cooking for this lady, whatever the case is. I'm waiting because now I'm like, look, if they're just chit-chatting here, I'm going to be upset. You know what I'm saying? Hurry up. It's 10 o'clock on a Wednesday morning, work day. There's a long line of people in the drive-thru line behind me. And sure enough, nothing else exchanged between these two ladies. And then the van drove off. And I come up. I just want my grande Pike Place with a little bit of milk in it. You know what I'm saying? So I get my coffee. I give her my debit card. She then turns around and says, here you go. And then I have to select, am I going to tip or not? Right? So I just look at it, and I look at her, and I look at it, and then I just stared at her. I didn't say anything. And she's like, are you okay? And I didn't respond. And I just stared.
You did a Mitch McConnell?
I had a, no. This was intentional. That moment was
too soon.
Oh man.
Too soon.
Not too soon. Relevant. So
He's
anyway.
So fit for the job. We have a lot of fit people in our
age limits, term limits. Come on, man. So I just stared at her, and then she took it back, and she said, okay. And then she gave me my card, free coffee. I drove off. But damn, how did they expect a tip?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? The tip was and it's peer pressure. I'm watching the button you're going to push.
They do that purposely.
So
emotions.
Unbelievable, dude. Tipflation is real. I don't know if you guys have noticed it. I'm
100%.
sure you have.
Oh, I'm starting. I get my haircut at Scissors and Scotch. And now they ask, you get a free drink with your haircut if you're a member. And so I go about a half hour early. Well, at the end, when I pay and I add a tip to
I've
my
been there a couple
to my
times.
stylist, they also now ask me, "Would you like to tip your bartender as well?" Like everybody's starting to get a tip. Like they never used to ask me that. Usually there's just a little jar and you put money in, you know, you want to tip right there on the spot. Now they ask you at the end when you're actually paying for, you know, the tip for your stylist.
You've already tipped. You tip. There's like a tip circulation.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Everybody,
that's the electronic payments industry. Now it's just when you sell a device into a vendor of some kind, you're queuing in on the employees. That's the company itself not paying their employees enough. That's also inflation itself driving pressures that people need to make more money. And then there's people like us that just like, are you freaking kidding me? I have to tip the subway guy now?
yeah. It's nickel and
You know what I
diamond.
mean? It's like,
Yeah.
I can't wait for a Bill Burr piece.
I was just getting ready.
Ooh.
Just getting ready to say that.
Dude, you know he's
Yeah,
coming with
yeah,
something on tips.
The cups are right over there. The
Yeah.
mayo.
Wait, I order the sandwich. You're the guy that makes the sandwich. Speaking of which, dude, Dave Chappelle's in town in September.
I saw that. I saw that.
Tickets. Bought
Oh,
them.
man. Nice. Did you get it on the initial like local day where it's up open? They have, like,
I'm not
two-
sure where a coworker of mine got it for.
Solid.
Yeah, so
Right
going.
on. Well, so are we. Yeah. We'll hit you up. I'm looking forward to
Tailgate.
that, man.
Go
Is that a
tailgate.
T-Mobile? Is
That'll, yeah, T-Mobile. It's on that circular stage, so it's kind of weird. Like, what if you pick the spot where he's got his back turned to more often? I don't know, but
Just give me the jokes.
Yeah,
Stimulate
Yeah.
my mind.
it's also strange, man.
That'll
You
be a
can't go in
podcast.
there. You can't take any pictures. There's no, cell phones can go in there. Of course, in comedy, that's that makes sense. But I'm excited. I will. After that, I will have seen my top two comedians live, which is to me going to be a great experience, man. One of the goats.
Just to
If
clear
not,
up, who was the
Yeah,
other?
who's the other?
Bill Burr.
Bill,
Okay.
where'd you see
Yeah.
him at?
Saw him when we lived in Charlotte.
yeah.
Yeah, we lived in Charlotte. Saw him
here.
at a really small venue. And
pretty cool,
It was
huh?
fantastic. Oh, it was way cool. It was probably 100 people, right? Maybe 150.
We were
people.
like at a crowd of 10,000 or I
Yeah,
don't know.
no.
Yeah, it was a
We were
Sprint
close,
Center.
dude. I mean, Bill Burr is where the door was, right?
Oh,
There was-
wow.
It was jam packed in there, no doubt.
That's
And
legit.
He said he started off his 2 hours or whatever he spent on stage with, "Hey, I just filmed my special, so I don't have any material." And that's how he started.
I love he's so honest.
And then he just started making fun of everything, and the crowd was in stitches. One dude got roasted to where he left. Like it wasn't even nice. You know what I mean? Bill Burr, he's coming at you.
Oh, yeah.
This dude stood up. So it's a very crowded, probably 50 by 50, whatever. This dude stood up and was trying to get out to find the restroom, but he kept trying to walk through the crowd and kept running into dead ends.
That's your
And
prime target.
Everybody's
Prime
sitting down.
target.
Everybody's sitting down, except this one dude. Like he had a little window.
I think he was
to where
planted there.
He could have sat back down, but he never did. And dude, he got roasted to where like it wasn't even funny anymore for the guy.
Yeah.
The crowd loved it.
Yeah.
But this dude probably cried himself to sleep that night.
Yeah. Have you heard that Matt Rife guy? Have you heard him? That he's like that
face.
sensation right now. Like his
He's
his-
Andrew Schultz.
yeah. He basically doesn't have an act. He basically just talks to people in the crowd, which I think are the most funny.
Crowd work is
Yeah, he just interacts.
If you know it's spontaneous.
Yeah, it's 100% spontaneous, which I think is what makes him more intriguing and really cool to go see. Unless it's you, that it's targeted. But usually he doesn't get to people on the way back unless they're like yelling stuff up
I
at the
was
stage.
so worried at the Bill Burr show because we were front center, like third or fourth row back at our little table. I was like, dude, we're gonna get it eventually, and we never did, thankfully.
Yeah, no.
should have brought out like the MAGA hat or something. Just
Oh,
put
no,
that
this was
thing
the-
on. Been like, come on.
This would have been, I think it would have been at about that time. It was 2016, 2017. So
First one I saw was Gallagher. If you remember him, saw him down at the music hall, and he was always smashing watermelons, and everybody in the front couple rows had the tarp they were putting up, and some of these guys are just
just prop
doing
comedy,
stupid stuff.
just- prop comedy, giant
Yeah.
sledgehammer, smashing fruits.
Yeah.
And it was awesome.
Yeah,
You guys remember Patrice O'Neill?
I remember the name. I can't remember what he looks like.
Figure, comedian, black guy.
oh, I'm sure if I saw him,
Yeah, if you saw him, go. Like, there's nobody like Dave Chappelle for me is, but I think Patrice O'Neill was
I don't think I've seen him.
hilarious. Yeah,
I worked at an all comedy radio station.
Well, wasn't he on the what was that group of guys that
They get together.
Yeah. Kings of Comedy? Was
Not
he in
not
that?
no. Who was the guy? Colin Farrell? Is that? No, that's the actor. Will Ferrell. Not Will Ferrell. They used to do. He was on SNL.
Colin Quinn.
Colin Quinn. They had that show.
Tough Crowd.
Tough Crowd. That's what it was.
Mm-hmm. I just pulled up his Wikipedia.
Yeah, there you go.
Like, I know nothing about this guy. Putting that on the record, I just happened to pull it up. Guy with a computer knows everything. I met Gary Coleman once, which was really cool. When I worked at All Comedy Radio, he came into town at the Uptown Theater on 3rd floor. That's where our office was. And I got to meet him once. And
Gary Coleman.
Gary Coleman and what's his name? Jimmy Walker. Dynamite.
Dynamite.
Yeah. And he hates it when you say that, man.
That's what
And
I
just
heard.
like Gary Coleman hates when you say, "What you talking about, Willis?" He gets pissed, both of them.
Yeah, I hate the name Gary Coleman because they said in elementary school that's who I look like. I'm like, I don't look like no damn Gary Coleman.
Even though you were like acting like him. Imagine how he feels. I don't look like you. I would never want to look like you.
Right. No, I used to hate that, man. I was like, I don't look like him.
You remember that story where he was like a security guard or something? And
On
he
Chappelle.
jumped on somebody's car on their hood and was like, I don't know, is this a viral video? No, it wasn't like a skit. Unless he did it. Unless he
He
did it
reenacted it.
with Dave Chappelle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
reenacted it.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, I'll have to watch that.
Yes,
I
hilarious.
probably have seen it a long time ago. Yeah, jumping on the hood, trying to hit the windshield.
That's even funnier now that he did that sketch, knowing that that's a true story.
Oh,
I didn't
yeah.
know that.
Oh, is that what happened? Because somebody was like saying, "What you talking about, Willis?" and he got pissed.
Something of that nature. Something of that nature. But
Makes
yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Man, when your entire career gets boiled down into one line,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
Yep. Same with Dynamite. Same thing. But he was a stand-up comedian too. I mean, he was good. Jimmy Walker.
Yeah, it's all right.
Well, hey man, that's a good podcast, fellas.